All right. We are here this morning. Sorry about the late attendance, but we're back on one more
Right,
Saturday, I should say. Saturday. This
right.
cold weather got your mind. I got my mind freezing up, Mr. B. This is your host, your gracious host, Dr. K. Wayne. Welcome to this broadcast this morning on a frigid Saturday morning. I greet you in the words of good morning. Mr. P, good morning. How are you?
That that is a good enough greeting. Hey, amen. Listen, I want to say good morning to all of my brothers and sisters, all of our viewers and our friends. Listen, man, this is a day that's going to impact our thinking capability. And good morning to you, Dr. K.
Good morning. All right. Then we start out with our code of action. One, speak politely. Two, pay fairly what you buy. Three, return everything you borrow. Four, pay for anything you damage. Five, do not hit or swear at another person that is look like you or anybody that does not look like you. Of course,
Oh,
we're trying to create a moral, get back to that moral standards. Six, do not take liberties with women. Seven, do not damage property or crops of the poor, oppressed masses. And eight, if we ever have to take captives, do not ill treat them. And so that it be if no one's breaking into your home. So
okay. Well, listen, let me give my five code of ethics to co-join with the ones that Dr. K just mentioned that we are to uphold and live by. The first one is integrity. Uh, the second one is unity. The third is objectivity. Have vision, like Dr. K has vision. The fourth is confidentiality. Don't be a blabber mouth. Hello. And then, of course, is growth, personal and cultural.
right, right, there it is. Those are
There
our
it
code
is.
of actions, code of ethics that needs to be followed here out and moving on into our next aspect of centuries and beyond. We need to develop as they develop a electrical code. We need to develop a code amongst our own to where it sticks to what the guidelines are on day to day living. That way, you're not looking around and scratching your head trying to figure out what is the next plan of action.
Yes.
So, as our topic for the day, as you can see, the title for those who will be tuning and viewing us at KTSE TV, it is if you the art of switching sides, and that means the title in itself meaning that going back to the plan of action, you shouldn't be scrambling to find which is the best side for you to be on. You're fence hopping. If you understand what I'm understanding, what the meaning of that may be, fence hopping is saying you're sitting in the middle looking for which is the best side to be on. Is it the side that's surely not gonna protect you, surely not give you any protection aspect of where you going to be going off into the future, even though our building bridges carry
Yeah.
over, excuse me, to the aspect of building a bridge for our next generation. So if we build a bridge, they would surely take the architectural plans and be able to make it structurally be built better for their following generation. So these are the platforms that's laid out so our next generation can be able to cross over to something that where they're not in a position to where they don't become beggars. And that leads us in those that those two definitions of beggars and choosers, and then choosers, and then to make decisions. So let's go into that, right? Let's get started, because we late. So we want once we get rolling, that time creep up on us, and next thing you know, we're out of time and we can't cover the important points. Of course, this show, just to get that out there, broadcast is, of course, you're going to hear talking. That's a must. And of course, it's for you to take the ears to listen and then to analyze what was heard. So that way you can use those tools to motivate yourself through and navigate through life. These are life lessons, life ongoing tools, not just to be on here for entertainment, but for educational purposes, and to actually broadcast some point of new media, even though we may not cover who got shot last night and what the weather going to be and who foot got ran over by a slipping car and what bank was robbed. That those are, if you look at news media, that's all they sell you. They tend not to say, they sell you maybe 1% of good, and the rest is all doomsday.
Sensationalism.
Go ahead.
That's what that's about. Purely sensationalism. And so we're not about sensationalism. We're about that growth for our community, personal growth for ourselves, and then nationwide growth for our particular motivation that we need to have. And you said it earlier, Dr. K, listen, you can't afford to be on both sides of the fence. You have to make a choice, and you have to make a decision. Either you're cold or you're hot. You can't be lukewarm. The good word says God doesn't like someone that's lukewarm. Make up your mind. And so this show and others like yours, Dr. K, give us that vital information that we need, that we can make good choices, which turn into good decisions.
Right. Definitely looking at the point to make the choice and being able to know the difference between the two. And we're going to try to break those down as reference to having to make a choice and what decisions to make on the fly, because a decision would be made in the aspect of choosing sides. Most of our people make vast decisions based on, again, which is the better side. So we're going to go into what they give us as reference to that, as far as making a choice. Both definitions, and where we get a better understanding of what they may mean, because it's not by accident that those two words exist, and being able to bounce back and forth between the two. It has to have some type of point of meaning. That way, everybody can understand what may be their point of action and plan. So, Minister B, I'm not sure if you have it, but I have it here. If you want to go ahead and start with that.
Yeah, the essential meaning of choice is the act of choosing, the act of picking or deciding between two or more possibilities. The opportunity or power to choose between two or more possibilities, the opportunity or power to make a decision. So, and then I like this simple one too, is just to pick out or select something that is the best alternative for you.
And right, that picking and deciding between two or more possibilities. And that's where your brain comes in to analyze in reference to self. It's not all about, all the time, it's not all about, you shouldn't have to be in a position where you have to choose a side, even though you have multiple selections and multiple possibilities that is there. And, of course, this is relating to, if I'm related to anything, I'm related to this political arena that we are embarking upon this year. We have to pay close attention as reference to fence hopping and choosing sides and making these choices, and more of them, looking to make a decision based on What may, and again, is having a vision. You know, we go back to that whole vision aspect of looking down the line, because the words is if we as we know it is very essential, very essential. You know, we can't ignore words, but we use them today as wholesale. We use them as wholesale today. Now, see how they play back and forth in speak. You know, they use choice in this.
Mm-hmm.
They go back and forth. Decision, choice, choice, decision. So what makes it say, as you, even if you use the sentence that they put it in, she announced her decision to go to medical school. I mean, why they didn't? Why is reference to how it sound? Of course, we would reword it. She announced her decision to go to medical school, or we could say, well, she chose that particular medical school to go to,
Exactly.
which was X, Y, and Z, right?
That's it. Listen, let me read the definition of decision right quick. It says a choice that you make about something after thinking about it, the result of deciding. That's the definition of decision.
And as you see, they go over and foremost the ability to make choices quickly and confidentially. So going back to the aspect of, even if you go down further, let's go into that real quick as far as the legal aspect of it. You look at the bottom here, the particular end of a legal or official argument, a legal or official judgment. Supreme Court, 1954 decision brought an end to racial segregation in public schools. Of course, you know that was a decision made. The choice, was it choice? By what choice was that handed down? You know, here again, you're talking about decision, and decision made vastly on the fly. You know, this, to me, this a decision. If you're making a decision and say, "Well, I'm gonna," to what it means to me is say, "I'm gonna make this on the fly. I'm gonna make this decision right now." Choice can say, "Well, you're thinking about it." This is how I break the two down, and this is on my own personal. Even though they closely have the same meaning, but you have to be able to choose between the two. This reference to how your decision making is going to be handled. It's reference to me going in the voting booth. You know, I chose to go into the voting booth, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I made a decision to switch parties. I made a decision to vote for this person. I made a vast decision to go that way. So see the different meaning in that. You know, I chose to go to that. I chose to go there. And in reference to me talking to someone, of course, the words are all about how you're speaking as we're speaking now. So we choose to do this at this time on this show, but our decision making wasn't to educate our people based on how we're going to move.
Absolutely.
So people say choice, people say decision. People use choice even, and I'm sure if you, Minister B, have heard it from different sources of reference to use it in a religious aspect. They say God give us choice. Is that question, does he? Or is
Oh,
it just
absolutely.
based on your mindset and what decisions that you're going to make for yourself? Because surely if you have a brain, nobody tells you to go and say, well, I'm going to go buy a new car. That's the choice you made. Then once you get to the dealership, you have decisions to make because there's multiple vehicles there to decide on. So a lot of these things to be analyzed and looked at closely as reference to how you move. You know, there's different elements of this word making and word choosing, and see how we use these terms. I mean, over and over and over again, and we at times don't think about them. And Minister, if you want to elaborate on them, do as such. You know, I don't want
Yeah.
to. I don't want to
Well,
hog up all the.
no. Well, you asked, does God give us a choice? And the answer is yes, He does give us a choice. But let's put it ideologically now. each and every morning, when each and every one of us, all my brothers and sisters, all of our viewers and all of our listeners, when you wake up in the morning, there's something that you are going to face. It's called a choice. A choice whether to do good or whether to do evil. Now, believe me, there are people waking up with their mindset to do just that, evil. But then there are the majority of us whose mindset is to do good. So we have a choice. So I wake up this morning with a choice to do good. I choose good. And here it is. Here's the decision. Now I'm going to make a decision how I am going to implement this good. Is it, I'm going to give you an example. Here's the thing that's good. Remember a couple of days ago, the snow came down, right? And so I'm out there uh, shoveling the snow. Well, actually, I have brought a snow blower. Dr.
Okay.
K, man, my back is feeling good.
See? See?
And so, me and my daughter out there, and so we're removing the snow. All of a sudden, I made a choice to not only for my good, but for my neighbors. So I decided then to do their sidewalk as well. And so that's an example of how we wake up, choose good or evil, make a decision and apply it in our life. That's a personal thing. That's ideologically. Now, for our culture, man, we must get out there and choose good for our culture and then get out there and decide to implement it. Um, Later on in this show, Dr. K, man, I have some very disturbing news. Hopefully, we'll be able to get into it. It's about the ban, the teaching ban that is trying to be orchestrated throughout our teaching establishment, and it's kind of startling. It's kind of startling.
Yeah, I had heard a little bit about that. I just hadn't had the time to. But yeah, definitely want to go into that. And by all means, if you want to go into it now, as far as we're looking at time, because I'm sure
Yeah.
that'll take us into where we need to go. So, because I mean, this is self-explanatory. This reference to the art of switching sides.
Yeah.
We us as a people have chosen to do that at wholesale. We make those vast decisions. Here go those words to maneuver as such and do it abruptly without thinking. No thought process in hand. And, thinking, of course, equates to problem solving. And that's the whole point of what we're doing. We want to problem solve as reference to when we're in school. You see, the only important thing that I got out of math when I was going through math, whether it be grammar school, high school, college, and beyond that it was always problem solving. These math equations, it equated to the headline of that problem was not that, oh, this is algebra, this is geometry, this is uh, calculus, this is physics, this is that. It was always, the head of it was always problem solving. Even though if they may have said it early in grammar school in the math book, hey, problem solving, solve this problem, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a problem we need to solve, and that doesn't stop. That as you can see, that has never stopped to solving. There's always a problem, right?
Always.
Meaning that if I have a problem, I need to figure out how to create a solution for it. Not that old term, that cliche we talked about on the previous show, having those cliches. It is what it is, that
And everything is everything.
that those foolish cliche. I'm gonna start calling those foolish cliches that we have to deal with, and hearing it so often from different aspects of our people, making that decision to use that term, and then they'll say, well, it was my choice. But then here so if it was your choice to use that term, well, here's the decision I'm going to make on you. Don't come to me with your problem. have made the choice to close my ears. I don't want to hear it. And say, well, and but saying you coming to me because you're innately looking for an aspect of help. Not saying I would not help you, but if it's going to be a repetitive thing that I have to listen to your problem and then you not reciprocate the aspect of listening to my solution, and I can only give an advice on your solution, well, that could possibly help. But at the same time, we want to be problem solvers together. That way, if I have a problem, you may have the solution to my problem. I may have the solution to your problem. That's where we switch sides at. That's the switching of sides, really. The bouncing back and forth. Hey, did you try this? Or hey, maybe you should try that. Without even getting into your business, somebody can say, well, hey, I don't choose to be into your business, but this I can make a decision based on, hey, can I give you some advice? Yes, Miss V, let's go ahead.
And this is why I say that a particular cliche, it is what it is. I say that it is non-productive because it doesn't bring a solution. It generates you being just stuck in that problem. Well, it is what it is. It's never going to change. It's like the hamster going around the wheel over and over and over again. So that phraseology, that cliche, does not produce a measurable outcome, and that's why I don't use that cliche, because it's not just it is what it is. It is what you make it. So I want to follow by that. Yeah. Now the things, Dr. K, that man was so disconcerting to me. We already know that there is legislation and bills going out and being voted on and have been passed that produces voter restriction, in especially in the predominantly Black community. They have taken away voter boxes. They have made it harder to go and vote. They have passed laws where you can't do some mail-in votes in some areas. So all of that is part of the voting suppression that has occurred. That's the first front. But I just recently learned of this second front that is, man, just startling. And what it is this: they have passed legislation in 14 states that produce a teaching ban, Dr. K, on the history, the Black history, in particular slavery. So 14 states have passed a ban about critical race theory and slavery, and said the Board of Education does not want these schools to teach that because it is offensive to the white population, because they feel guilty, and it will harm him or her. And so, what? Let's look at this. Let's look at this. What that is saying, Dr. K, is enormous.
Yeah.
What they are trying to do is to control the mindset of the upcoming generation. They don't want the full harm of what slavery did to people. They don't want to look at the reality, how they beat them,
So
how
just
they
to
broke them
interject,
down.
pause for a second, Minister V, real quick, just to interject. So that be the case, and I'll say this just real quickly, then don't teach U.S. history at all. Okay, continue.
Come on now. See, this is what I'm saying. And so it gets deeper because they don't want the future generation to understand and know what this history was all about, how they subjugated a whole group of people, how they attempted to make them inferior, equal to furniture or animals, how they took away their name, how they took away their language, how they took away their culture and made them subjugant to them and made them slaves. And so that was a reality. So how can you take away that history? Here's a startling thing. Listen, nationwide, the 2020 census stated that 55% of the upcoming class are kids of color, black kids. 55%, that's a majority. Right now, the class of 2020, when that class graduates, Dr. K, that's the majority of white kids. After that, the majority coming out of any type of institution will be black children. So what they want to do is formulate the mindset to these black kids to understand language this way, understand it rated PG. However, history was rated R.
Rated triple X in certain cases. If you go deeper than that,
Oh, come on.
it gets ugly.
We can get into it. It is so ugly. It is so ugly. And so what they're trying to say is, black kids, because you're the majority now after 2022. We want you all to understand that the slaves just came over and they just worked a little bit and they enjoyed. And then they got their freedom. Excuse me.
Where question is where was the enjoyment? Where was the enjoyment in being a slave? Where was the enjoyment in going through that process? Because as I've talked with you in private before, and I'll say it if I haven't said it, I've been in a position to where I've been have had, and so many others for that, but most people may not even talk about it. I've known someone who was a slave. That's how close, as reference to, and the short time span.
Right, it's right here.
My own great grandfather was a slave. He was born in the 1800s. He lived up until I was 13, so I was able to hear all what happened to him in that point, and what he saw that his brothers and sisters had endured, and even mother and father. His reference explaining to him what was going through, and then what had not been corrected. That's the purpose. We know the ugly, right? This is what we talk about, and it is what they tell you to forget. Greater society tell you to forget slavery. Oh, forget it. We've apologized over and over. Yeah, for the damn the apology. I want a point of action of correcting what was done. Nobody's never corrected the gap, the wealth gap, because that's all that was about.
Yeah.
Getting wealthy. How can I get rich without doing no work? Right?
Exactly.
That's the whole purpose. So we're looking at labor, free land and free labor. This is where we're at. And there's reference to this voting bill. When you speak of that, and as far as going into the educational process of that, I keep and I advise our people to go into the aspect and start. Here's another cliche: my ancestors died for me to have the right to vote. That statement is not true. We'll say this is reference to a slave. Our ancestors had the right to vote in the aspect of when they so-called quote unquote ended slavery during the Civil War times and going to be drafted to or to be chosen to fight in the Civil War. They had made the agreement that slavery was over. 1, 2, once you have bought into engaging in action into this Civil War with us, you will have the same inalienable rights as the white society, right? So that gave you the right to vote then. What's our proof? You go right to the Constitution. Tells you right in there. Now, here's a document that's created in 1776, right? Amended in 1863. And then the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, solely created for Blacks in America that was enslaved. These amendments created for you. And right in the 14th and 15th Amendment, it discussed the aspect of voting. Matter of fact, your nuclear option is reference to voter suppression is where, Minister P? It's right in the 15th Amendment. That's your nuclear bomb.
Right.
So if a voter suppression is to happen, say, right here in the Constitution, it stated X, Y, and Z. So all this dilly-dallying back and forth about 1965. 1965. So I gave you this reference to we had the right to vote in during the aspect after slavery. So 1865 to 1965, blacks were voting. Then this voting bills, right, came in the aspect of saying, well, hey, here's what's happening. We know we have the right to vote, even though we wasn't educationally told properly, you and I moving forward, because if I wouldn't hear that statement today now from some black person saying that, well, I go vote, I go just to vote. Now, here's what he said. This is a black gentleman said, I go just to go vote because my ancestors died. I said, and that's it? I asked him 3 or 4 times just to make sure I was clear on what he said to me.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so it's not based on no benefits, not based on moving you forward 20 years out. No, I just go to vote because my ancestors died. That's it. I'm like, wow, so you care nothing about what happens to your future and what laws they put down over you now because you just went and voted blindly.
Yeah.
I assume to be blind if I'm gonna do that. Just give me a blind stick and I'll just let me go vote because I can't see nothing. You might as well be blind. So in stating that, going back to the 1965 Voting Rights Bill, that bill was only a protection act. They just didn't name it that, because what was happening prior to that, I'll say it again, what was happening prior to 1965, as blacks went out to vote, they were getting harmed. So that was the only purpose of the bill, as far as the federal government throughout the land to say, no, these people going to the polls shouldn't be harmed going to these voting polls to make this decision. Not saying, well, my ancestor died, so now I can just go out here and vote crazy and get crazy with the situation and say, well, dude, that sounds good to me, so I'm gonna just go vote for him. And then next thing you know, you're getting a swift kick boot in the ass by policies ran down that you voted for now. Because that's what they'll tell you. Well, you voted me in without even researching.
Well, Dr. K, here's the deal with that. Not only were they being harmed, they were being killed. There was an aggressive voter repression. Same thing occurred when the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment was written and came into play. Everybody didn't lay down and say, "Oh, come on in, come on." There was years of resistance. There was years of they immediately start writing laws just like they're doing now. Hello, history repeats itself. They immediately started writing laws to discriminate against Black people voting. Y'all want to vote? Okay, watch this. How many marbles are in this container? If you can't tell me the amount, you can't vote. They made laws like that. There was illiteracy laws. If you couldn't spell a certain word, you couldn't come in and vote. So it wasn't just like, okay, you got the right to vote. Everybody come on in and vote. It wasn't. They were restricted, and there was laws
they definitely
them.
had restrictions.
And
surely,
they were
of course,
killed.
They
and
were
then
killed.
The Ku Klux Klan, KKK came in, and if you vote this way, or you come and vote, your family will be burnt up. All of this. So it was so much harassment. Now what?
Well, so to interject, in that 100 years time span up until that point, why would it take 100 years to create a protection act? Right. Let's just say that it took that long after Jim Crow, after all the segregational aspect things are going on in that 100-year span, 1865 to 1965. You mean to tell me we're gonna wait 100 years to just put in Protection Act, not an act to let you vote? Because you already had the right to vote, even though those atrocities were happening in the midst of those 100 years.
This took away legally legally they can get away with that. But in 1965, this stopped that legality. You can't legally get away with that. But
it shouldn't have took that long. It should have been
should not have.
So my thing is that, okay, I'm not for the one-upsmanship, but I am for revenge. That's what I am for. I'll make that clear. I am for revenge. So if you kill one of my hogs, I'm gonna kill one of yours. or if not even more, depending on the situation.
Okay, but
So
how is that relating to the voter? What type of revenge are you talking?
to me it should have been resistance met. So if you're gonna threaten me, okay, I'm gonna threaten you back. There's no one turn the other cheek. No, I'm gonna slap your cheek. That's what's gonna happen.
Well, you're promoting violence there. I
Well,
would.
it violence, and so here's the thing between good and evil. So if I have to do some evil to do what? Create what? Some good. Because I'm under attack now. So I'm just all so here's what's happening. Let's break this down. So, oh, Ken, Dr. K, now Mr. Ken is coming to your door. He's gonna kick it in every day. This is what they're telling me. This gentleman is named Ken. He's gonna come into your door and kick it in every day and threaten you and tell you not to vote every day. And they telling me this. And I'm gonna say, okay, that's fine. And then he's gonna kick over your table. And so now this is gonna happen. He said they're gonna do this for a whole year until every voting aspect is already set and done. So now here's the question to you, Minister B. You know the outcome of this situation I just explained. This is a problem solving problem, right?
I'm gonna come in and kick your door.
Yeah. Now, question to you is that you got this problem in front of you. Are you going to continue to let that happen?
This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to reinforce my door. I'm going to call the police. And
no, let's go even further. What if there's no police to be had? There was no police to be had.
Protect myself.
So you're enforcing your doors, and then you protecting yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you want to use it in that aspect of a term, to be politically correct without slapping a face, I get it. But to be blunt and front, if you're gonna come and slap my face, soon to get your face slapped even harder back. Because what was the purpose of you coming to slap my face? Because they said that I have to come and do this to keep you from doing X, Y, and Z. Okay. And tell me how logical does that sound to you for what they said? But is it for what you want? And we talking about politics now.
But we're talking about voting. We're not talking about the physical act of violence right now.
True.
We're talking about
so legislation. Talk about the Constitution. Right. So if it can't be, if I know my nuclear option is the 15th Amendment, and I'm a Black person in America, and that doesn't go over, and then they're creating groups like the Ku Klux Klan to come in to prohibit me from going to the poll, what needs to be met? It needs to be met with resistance. So I can go and I exercise, as they say, like I need to go exercise my vote. No, I just go to the gym. But that's a whole nother foolish cliche that people say, let me go exercise my vote. No, get a gym membership. Just go vote if you need to, and do it properly. And do it and ask questions. Don't just go say, well, I'm doing this just based on ancestry purposes. No, I'm doing this because I have a vision and I'm looking down the road. And when I vote properly, they mean that has an effect on the generation that's coming up behind me.
Absolutely. Laws. And so let me say this. So you posed the question, why did it take so long? We don't know. I don't know. That's in the past. We don't know why it took so long. I wish it didn't, but it did. Now, so we came up with, after the 15th Amendment, Jim Crow laws sparked up all over the country to discriminate against Black people voting. We got the laws in 1965 to cut out that illegal mess. Now you can't discriminate against us. So we can, again, reestablish our 15th Amendment right to go and vote. And that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing now. And that's why we're saying, making people aware. So
here's the purpose in that. Most people, that's why I say I'm not going to get behind this new process of revamping this voting rights bill, because that bill has already stood and stand anyway. Why? Because the 15th Amendment is right there. So this new bill that's in place that they come over with is not for you and me. It's for an immigrant coming over into America. That's who it's for. And as well as I know, Mr. B, I'm real. When I say, I usually either researched it or then did some underlining scoping of what's to be at hand. because I've already had being, as you and I know, we are here in America, right? And our ancestors, most of our ancestors, where did your ancestors come from overall, right next closely? Most people say from the South, right?
Yeah.
So from the South. I don't have any connection to Jamaica. I don't have any connection to Haiti. I don't have a connection to Africa. So I can't. So here again, we go back to these terms as far as decision and choice, those terms, and then we go into the terms of, well, you can choose to be called that, but what is the effects going to be? Like we say, term of African American. I choose not to use that term because that term is a trick bag. It's a trick bag. Because clearly a white person from America can move to Africa for a couple of years and come back, and they're what now, Mr. P?
White Americans.
No, they're African American. See, that's a game. So now here hey Paul, we African Americans now, bumping shoulder to shoulder. But well, I just play it, and they'll tell you, well, this is a game to me. Because clearly you can't see I'm clearly not African American, but I can claim the term when benefits. So when the benefits come down the pipeline, they'll say, well, all African Americans get these benefits. And I'm looking across the room like, well, this guy ain't African American. So that's why now you see why I go with the term black.
So
because now physically by my eye, I can see that this person ain't black. African American, that can be anyone. It can be anyone, because they did the due diligence to move from here, move to Africa, and then move back. Now what? They're African American. Now it's been stated, if you study history, as reference to what he was talking about coming over in the Atlantic slave trade, mainly it was 1% to 2%. Wasn't that many Africans that even come across? But see, nobody does the navigation aspect of the Atlantic slave trade. It was all the Atlantic coast going from one coast down to the next. Louisiana up to South Carolina down Louisiana. So surely if you don't know your bearings, right? If you're on a boat, you don't know if you sailed that far from Africa to, all you know that you was in the sea, in the ocean, right? But then they said again about your teaching, this teaching thing. If you don't teach and educate properly, you think you try to travel 2,000-3,000 miles from a boat over in Africa. And then to be now here in the time span, even though that's enough time span to erase the mindset of who I'm supposed to be directly connected to, let's just say tribal. I said, I don't even have the knowledge, but that's not even that long ago. So you would surely think that even in 300 years, somebody can trace back to say, well, that tribe was forced over here.
Oh yeah, we can do that.
Easily connect back to it, but nobody knows. Nobody has any connection to that.
Yeah. But we know that, Dr. Cave, though, we know that occurred. So Africans came from Africa and they were forced into slavery over here.
But not all. Let's make it clear, Mr. B, not all. I told you 1% to 2%. That's low.
Well, and that's where we came from. That's our heritage.
But I can't say that. I don't know that. That's one of those I don't know. Because again, when I talk to ancestry that I was able to connect to, he never related to his people coming off a boat.
You never did?
No. He only related to say, well, we've been in America this time. Right. Slavery, but traded back and forth. So,
but Dr. K,
again, there's a possibility. Let's just say that.
You're right. Well,
there's a possibility.
We're not indigenous. The black slaves were not indigenous.
So question would be who is indigenous?
I don't know about that, but the black slaves were not indigenous. So
who would be?
I don't even know.
Europeans?
I don't even know, but the black slaves were not indigenous. They were brought over here. And so that brings us to our heritage today. And that brings us to the condition that we're in right now, Dr. K, which is what we're focusing on, this teaching removal out of our teaching system. This is what we are alerting our brothers and sisters to right now, this coming crisis. Our children are going into a school system where they're going to get baby fed our history. And so we are now alarming everybody and alerting everybody, brothers and sisters, friends and viewers, to come against this move to remove history, Black history, out of our classrooms. They have even gotten in Virginia, they have gotten a 1-800 number, Dr. K, that kids can call when they feel that the teacher, come on, when they feel the teacher has gone past diversity and is teaching something that they don't think I'm gonna make them feel uncomfortable, they call a 1-800 number, and so then the state school board will come into that school and reprimand that school and that teacher.
Well,
Do you see?
yeah, I mean that goes right into what we just got through talking about. If the correction of telling the truth, so and that would go into right where we ended our, we'll call it a debate on about who is
Yeah.
indigenous to this land, because clearly when you look at the big picture and you look at us, so and that goes as reference to relate to the indigenous of to this land, then that makes us, that you would say that would make us indigenous to this land, right? Because truly we don't know that we travel. If I do the research and say, well, there was only 2% of Africans who even were brought here on a boat. Okay, somebody gave me that information. All right, so if I can't trace back to this land of indigenous called Africa, all right, then that surely means that I had to be placed somewhere. This is like, for example, if we do a crime right now, Mr. Peter, we say, well, let's go rob a couple of banks, all right, and do some federal, and these are federal charges, and they say, well, they catch us, and they say, well, you didn't kill anybody, and you didn't do this, and we're not going to jail you, but we're going to remove you from this country, and we're going to send you back home. What would home be for you and I, Minister P? Truly, what would home be?
Right where I'm living right now.
Right. So now we so they can't kick us out of America because we don't have, there's no, but somebody who has done that crime now that's from Africa,
Mm-hmm.
or Nigeria,
Mm-hmm.
they can send him back. They say, no, you've been ostracized out of America. They have a homeland to go back to. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to accept us there. We may like to go there and fellowship with somebody that look closely like us, but we don't have a direct connection. Because if that be the case, my thing is that the size of Africa is probably 5 Americas or bigger. You got all these different continents within Africa. You surely think they would have gotten together and say, we need to go rescue our enslaved brothers and sisters that have been on the American soil out of there. But name me in history when has that happened? It hasn't. It didn't. So now here we are. It's reference to.
Nor is it going to.
You're right. You're right. Because
that's not going to happen.
No, because if we walk through the history aspect of saying as power structure, Morocco, which is in Africa, right, had a power structure. At one point, they was teeter-tottering back and forth, but the West, of course, eliminated that protection aspect because they attacked Morocco. Morocco at one time said, well, you how many blacks there? It might be some resistance.
Now, Dr. K, when you say the West, who in particular is the West?
USA.
Okay, so so United States attacked them, right?
Right.
Which is their
they ran all kinds of coups and disrupted the power structure in Morocco. So now Morocco is no longer a power structure.
So that's their mode of operation.
That's
their mode of operation.
Yeah.
That's how they do. That's how they do.
Yeah. So it's to be, if I'm, so going back to the voting aspect, is if I'm stopped from going to vote, and there's resistance that's stopping me, surely I may turn around for that moment, but you best reassure that I'm coming back with resistance will be met with resistance. We're not advocating. I'll say this, I don't advocate the violent act to be initiated first. But if it's brought first to me, that's how I'm going to react. That's like somebody coming up to you and slapping you. You trying to like, well, why did this fool slap me? For what purpose? No, yeah, you can morally talk it out and say, man, well, what you ask questions of, well, hey, what was the purpose of you slapping me, right? That's the moral thing to do. But then after I get to being moral, I said, well, now, since you caught me off guard and slapped me, surely now you need to put your hands, this is justice. Put your hands behind your back and stick out your face. Because you slapped me for no reason. So now to make this equal and we can move on now, right? Because now I won't need to retaliate because we'll be on equal playing field. So now stick out your face so I can slap you back. So now we're even now. We're even. So
Okay,
that's the whole purpose of
how's that relating to voting though? You're saying somebody is resisting you from voting.
right.
So you're gonna come back and say, oh, I am gonna vote, and boom, here it is. I'm voting.
Well, here is reference to resistance of voting leads to here's the relationship to that as reference to our retaliation to if somebody's going to say, well, you can't vote. Of course, our nuclear option is if there's voter suppression, right? Let's just say that because that's what we're talking about. That leads to voter suppression, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So if leading to voter suppression, then my retaliation would be the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. Within those, really in the 15th Amendment is my nuclear option. That's my retaliation. Now,
okay, so how do you apply that though?
I mean, that's going through the court system. If you can make it through that process.
That's what I'm talking about. So here it is. You just said it. We have to fight this fight legally through the court system.
And you missed the key word, Mr. P. If. Because you know the way we're switching sides here, that's the whole purpose of the art of switching sides. We've fence hop and switch sides so much, we have no control in the court systems almost.
Okay, well, hold up now. I said how would you apply it? Mm-hmm. You said go to the court system. So let's go right there. Let's go through the court system, and that's how you handle. You can't handle voters suppression violently. There have been so many historical uprisings. Let's talk about the Nate Turners and all of them. Uprisings that ended in just one way. They all have ended in one way. We must change this thing legislatively and through the legal system. That's why we are empowering ourselves with knowledge through shows like this that bring about this mindset where we must empower ourselves politically with knowledge, not just cliches, but knowledge. So in other words, if I'm discriminated against, then I go to policy 346 and go to that courthouse and say, I've been violated. Because in 1965, that says you can't violate me no more. And so this is how we fight nowadays through the political system, legislatively and through laws. That's why we have to arm ourselves with knowledge of the law. That's
true.
This country understands one thing: law and money.
Yeah.
Boy, that's two things.
Yeah, that it's funny that you mentioned that. I was telling somebody about a statement that was made and this was regurgitated by somebody that I was hearing. And I'm definitely get the proper person who made this statement because of course it's all about giving the resource, the source of where it comes from. But somebody and knowing. And right now, I don't have the remembrance of who the individual is. So he made a statement as reference to, I will give you your laws, but it was something to that effect about saying, I'll let you have your laws, but I'll take all your songs. And the statement in that was meaning that who cares about laws? Because it's 1 million or more on the books anyway. Who cares about that? But it's referenced in song. Let you know how popular song is. And we speak of people of Michael Jackson, Prince, James Brown being the first, and the message in the song was really more important given out to the people because it was actually telling them something to do. The law is forcing you, right? It's more of an enforcement. That's why they call it law enforcement. That's why you have law enforcement to enforce the aspect of law, to make someone who doesn't want to do it. But song, If you hear a nice melody going in your ear, that can innately turn you. So this individual is making this statement, it was something to that when he made that statement, because it was very powerful to say, wow, if someone can create a song to make millions to do a certain thing, and laws can't, that's why they create so many laws, because laws don't properly operate like they supposed to, right? They supposed to operate properly, but they really don't. We clear on that. We're clear. We know this, and that will be, to me, that's why we come up with the code. If you have a code set in place, as reference to how you're supposed to operate, then there will be no need for laws.
Because, well, that code is the law.
Well, yeah, they say that. That's what the greater society tells you. That's why, and then that's why as blacks folks, that's why we all, that's why we have these platforms to correct what law didn't do. We have to have a code that's no different than having a code for electrical, plumbing. There's a particular code. The light switch has a code. It's going to be either on or off. It never deviates from that. There's no left or right. It's either on, off, or on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. So we have to have a code of action and a code of ethics to thrive on, because sometimes laws doesn't help us properly. So we had our own particular code, and it could go into aspect of to say, well, okay, to add to the code of action, we all do this at one time. We'll just say voting, right? To use that as an example. We should all vote based on like this, because this will help the aspect of the rest of our codes that we have move properly into law. We can make the statement that way to kind of bunch that up together, because if surely these are connecting the dots. We have to connect the dots with the thing, because with this whole process, because if we don't, we lose sight of what the code is as reference to what we have now. There's no point of code within our community, within our culture. So that's why we are switching sides and hopping the fence, and I'm over here and you over there. And we can't come to a point of problem solving. We both got the same problem, right? Both got the same problem. But we just have, innately, we don't have a code. That's why we're making decisions chosen based on, well, I'm gonna go about it this way because I believe it'll. No, yeah, those will be our think tanks to say, okay, well, you're thinking that way and I'm thinking this way. Well, how do we equally align those two to almost look identical? That way we're on the same page. We're on the same page. Then we can operate to move this thing to make laws and politics move and shift. That's why if you run down the terms as reference to how they works, I would call it the Nellie Fuller effect. Mr. Nellie Fuller breaks it down as to economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and more. Right? He breaks those down in such terms, the fact to say, well, now they're in alphabetical order, right? But if you roll through them and break and put linear and put a definition to all of those and break them down, you'll see that the economics affects all of them. That's why it's at the top or bottom, whichever you want to look at it, but it affects all of them. Especially it controls. If you got the money, if you have the money, let's just say me and you, Minister, are the richest in the world, right? We got all the money in the world. Tell me, what purpose would it be to vote? What's the purpose when I can buy you? I can buy you. So sure, I don't need to vote for what? When this is how politics works. This is how these different candidates run. They run based off what? The backing of money. Not the backing of a vote. They can tell you, oh, come and vote for me. But to make me do something, that means your hand is in my pocket. Overall, we don't want to put it that way, but on the back end, when we understand the aspect of politics, our people got people, you have to have your hand in this politician's pocket to really make him now do what he needs to do. Now we could say, yeah, hey, it's in the law that you're supposed to do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, do they follow it for the most part? Well, we've seen that in history. No. They don't even they ignore that. They go right around that. So, yeah, law is there. That's fine. They only use it if it benefits them. That's why we need to force the hand to say, well, hey, well, here's how we're coming. Economically, we got you because we paid for you. And then we're going to use the law against you as well. That's where you're double teaming. You hit them with the 1-2 punch in that aspect. They say, well, hey, we paid for you to be in office and we going to hit you with the laws. That's how this thing works. And I mean, anybody can refute that if they choose to, but I challenge you to do the research based on how politics works. Economics is the way that controls politics. Voting is nice. When voting night is nice to me. Now, here's how I look at it. Voting is nice when you are voting as a block. That's why you hear the word, when you hear the terms run across these media outlets of voting block, people are coming together to vote together. Now, if you got that in order, have a code on based on how you're going to vote, code now. Saying, well, we're all on code because nobody's deviating, nobody's switching sides. Now we can get done what we need to because we all are voting together, not here where you cross the street and I'm over here and say, well, I don't know. We all understand what needs to happen. And that's part of the issue that we have in this whole voting process. We don't know, we don't understand. And that's why we're here, Minister P, so we can educate our people properly of going through this process so we can get to the point where our media outlets are just based on, then we can talk about what maybe is happening in the street that we're not involved in, instead of having to continue to battle an uphill. Now, this is an uphill battle because we have to create platforms to have been told our people a long time ago to say, well, neither of these parties are going to do anything for you. And if you choose to make that decision of going to those parties and you don't get nothing out of it, I'm not going to be the one to say, I told you so. That's just a learning process. So, I challenge our people to be more intuitive to what is happening. Stick to our 8 points and then code of action that we started. Stick to our 5 points, code of ethics that is out there. And we'll run through them again as we ran through early in the show. And I'll end off in that, but I'll end off with, I invite you to tune into us on Saturdays at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. This is Let's Look at This, as your host, Dr. K, my co-host, the gracious Minister P, who's relaxed. He got us relaxed. So you gotta relax, people. Relax.
That's right.
So in saying that, I definitely would like you to tune into us on KTSE-TV. That's our YouTube channel. You can view some of our previous broadcasts there if you want to get some informational points. If you want to comment, we're always there for comments to hear the public and based on what was said and any questions that can be asked that we may be able to answer if we can get to you. But there would be an email address there as well if you want to email any questions. But please go there, subscribe. Please subscribe. Please like the channel. It's reference to please donate. As you see it scrolling across the screen, challenge you to donate to our Cash App. And it would help us to keep going on this, we'll say, radio broadcast station that we do have to pay for to be on the radio station. As such, YouTube, of course, if we want to do any extras there, that's a whole nother aspect of things. But we go to KTSE Media Cash App, and definitely whatever is on your heart to donate, we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then as reference to our Sunday broadcast with our gracious host, Minister P, Love at Work Ministries. He will be live at 8 a.m. Don't be late. He comes right on promptly.
That's right.
At 8 a.m. He might get started maybe 5 minutes early if you can catch it. But he has a exciting beginning and an exciting middle and ending. So I challenge you to go to Love at Work Ministries and view and tune in to him on Sunday mornings at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And if you don't get the chance to wake up at that point and catch him at that time, he can be, his previous show will be aired from the previous Sunday at 10 a.m. And the show, if you missed the show or missed his broadcast at that live broadcast at 8 a.m., he will be re-aired Monday morning at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Wednesday and Friday at the same time. And so I challenge you to hear those points and get to those messages, and just be mindful and thankful of what we're doing today in reference to switching sides and jumping over here and jumping over there. We have to be tactful in our mind and our process. And then we end off in those 8 points of: 1, speak politely; 2, pay fairly for what you buy; 3, return everything you borrow; 4, pay for everything you damage; 5, do not hit or swear at people; 6, do not take liberties with women; 7, do not damage property or crops of the poor, oppressed masses; and 8, if we ever have to take captive, do not ill treat that person that is taken captive. And Minister P, please give us the 5 ethics.
My 5 codes of ethics are: number 1, have integrity; number 2, engage in unity; number 3, have objectivity, have a vision; number 4, confidentiality, quit gossiping people's business; and number 5, brothers and sisters, have growth, personal and cultural growth.
All right. That's been our time. You know, we once we get rolling, it's hard to get us to be stopped. So we try to be mindful of our time. This is the second week we went over, but hey, it's all in good faith as reference to bringing forth this good information. If you are hearing us and will be tuning in to us at our YouTube channel. But again, please like and share. And as we sign off, I greet you in the name of have a good day and have a rest of your good weekend. I salute.
Peace out.